All right, guys, what's up? Coach B here again. Today we're going to chat about a, common misconception or just a topic that I've actually been asked about a lot by clients. And actually, recently it was one of my new clients who I sent their diet plan. They got all the groceries, made all the stuff up, and they were just like, "Hey, why am I eating white rice and not brown rice?" And I said to her, first of all, before you get your answer for that, what's the issue? Like, what's your question for? And she goes, well, I've always thought brown rice is healthier. So my question again, and one of the things I do with my clients is I'd rather them learn and understand versus just, well, this is why. So I want to challenge their own train of thought. So I said to her, why is it healthier? And we had a discussion on this. She gave me her answers. She talked about the fiber and whatnot, which it is true. There is more fiber, and we'll go over all of this. But fact of the matter is, that's what we're going to discuss today, is why in the world of building muscle, even often burning fat, contest prep diets, all of this stuff, even me with lifestyle clients, I generally opt to send them with a white jasmine or a white basmati rice versus a brown rice, a whole grain rice, wild rice, this kind of thing. So the question we're addressing today is, what is better, brown rice or white rice, and why? So in order to answer this question of what's the better option, white rice or brown rice, first we have to actually understand what they are and the differences between them. So first and foremost, brown and white rice, essentially, even though we may think so, they're not a different food. They come from the exact same food. They essentially begin as the exact same food, but there are some differences, of course, as we go down deep into the process. So what is brown rice? Well, brown rice is completely whole grain. It contains all parts of the grain, including fibrous bran and the nutritious germ, which we call the part of the brown rice that holds a lot of the nutrients and whatnot that we think is the benefit of brown rice. Brown rice does have more antioxidants and minerals such as magnesium, iron, niacin, thiamine, tons of these things. It does have more. There's no hiding that. If you look at the actual bare bones of brown rice versus white rice, there is more nutrients in brown rice. We'll discuss this further in a few minutes here. So white rice, what is white rice then? Well, white rice is exactly the same as brown rice, but it's been processed. It's been processed to have the bran and the germ removed. Due to this, it has less fiber, of course. When you look at 100 grams of cooked rice, you might be seeing maybe 3.5 grams of fiber per 100 grams of brown cooked rice. And when you go over to the white variety, you're going to see like 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 grams. So very, very different in terms of their actual fiber content. It's about a quarter in white rice versus brown rice. A lot of manufacturers for white rices actually add back many of the nutrients that are lost, like the magnesium, the manganese, the iron, the zinc, niacin, all the fun stuff. A lot of rice manufacturers of white rice will actually add this stuff back and fortify the rice. So it's white rice fortified with nutrients. So you're getting back a lot of the stuff you lose during the processing of these rices. So now, when we talk about which one is actually healthier or better or whatever, one of the biggest reasons people say that brown rice is better for you and we should eat brown rice is due to its glycemic index score. So what is the glycemic index score? Basically, it's the effect a food has on your blood sugar levels. So if I was to fast for 16 hours or fast for 12 hours overnight and I wake up on a fasted empty stomach and I was to eat brown rice, a large serving of brown rice, the GI score comes in at about 68. So that's the actual score they've given to brown rice and the effect it has on my blood sugar levels. So going forward with this, it's not necessarily a myth. It's often said that the reason brown rice is healthier is because it has a lower GI score than white rice. Okay, so white rice now. I fast for 16 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is. I have a completely empty gut, and I ingest cooked white rice, large serving of cooked white rice. The GI score on that is 73. So we're looking at 73 for white rice versus 68 for brown rice. That difference is quite negligible if you ask me. You're not going to suddenly store a crazy amount of body fat or not utilize nutrients with a difference of a GI score of 5 points, 68 to 73. Furthermore, when is the last time you woke up or you fasted for 16 hours and your meal consisted of nothing but a serving of rice? No vegetables, no proteins, no fats, just a serving of rice. Because that's essentially how GI is measured. The glycemic index is measured by a food consumed in a fasted state, the actual effects it has on your blood sugars by itself. Now, what we need to consider is what we call the glycemic load. So going back to this, when we eat foods, we tend to eat a carb, so our rice that we're talking about. Generally in that meal, especially in the bodybuilding fitness community, we're going to have a protein source. Be it chicken, beef, even if it's whey protein in a shake on the side, salmon, whatever it is, you're going to have a protein source with that meal. So right there, protein is going to change the insulin response or the spike in blood sugars from that food. Furthermore, we add in the vegetables. Vegetables have fiber. Vegetables have more fiber than a serving of brown rice would. So we're actually still getting good fiber, which is also going to slow the rise in blood sugars and the digestion rate of that food. So we've got protein slowing the digestion, we've got fiber slowing the digestion, and now we add in fats. Well, we all know fats as well very, very efficiently slow digestion and minimize the spike in blood sugars. That's why, for instance, like me, I have almond butter in my cream of rice pre-workout, because if I don't, I digest cream of rice very fast, which cream of rice is made of white rice. I digest it very fast, and yes, it's great. It gives me that energy, and I can train on it. Basically, what feels like an empty stomach, but my blood sugars will come up, and then they'll also drop very fast. And I don't want my blood sugars plummeting while I'm training. I want a sustained energy, so that's why I would put my almond butter in the cream of rice to sustain that insulin response and hold it through for a longer period of time. So going back to this, when we look at it, essentially what we're saying the glycemic index is eating a food by itself and giving it a score. We don't tend to ever do that. We don't ever eat just a bowl of white or brown rice. So the fact that the GI is different by 5 points on those, which 5 points is very minuscule, but it is different. The fact we say that one is better than the other because of that is complete bogus, because we are eating vegetables, we are eating proteins, we are eating fats, and once you put those into the equation, the actual differences become completely negligible. Those are all going to slow the absorption of the nutrient, the rice, and it's going to have a massive effect on the impact it has on your blood sugars. So right there, the whole glycemic index goes out the window, because we actually need to consider the glycemic load of an entire meal. Now, when we talk about brown rice, some of you may or may not have heard, the client who I was discussing with actually had no idea this was a thing. And there's plenty of studies on it. There's studies done on different animals, no animals harmed in the processes, studies done on different animals, and looking at these effects and how and the roles it plays. There is many studies done on humans as well, because it's very safe to test this kind of stuff. So when we talk about brown rice, one of the things that's a common theme is phytic acid and phytate, or phytate. These are generally referred to as anti-nutrients. So what does that mean? Basically, they have the ability to block the absorption and utilization of some of the beneficial ingredients that are within that, I guess I shouldn't say ingredients, some of the beneficial vitamins and minerals that are within the rice. So again, we talked about how rice has more magnesium, manganese, niacin, vitamin B's, you name it, it does have more. There's no arguing that. Now, when we look at the fact that phytic acid and phytate decreases the absorption rate of these minerals and actually makes these minerals unable to be absorbed by the body, are we really seeing a benefit? Because yeah, the brown rice has those, but it also has phytate and phytic acid, which isn't allowing us to absorb them. So if we're simply eating the rice for the nutritional content that's provided in the terms of vitamins and minerals, but we can't absorb them, we're not actually getting that benefit. Now, if we have white rice and we include vegetables and we have fruits in a well-balanced diet throughout the course of a day, we can absorb those nutrients through things like broccoli, like asparagus, all these different vegetables that have, or spinach, iron. Iron's a big one that is prevalent in brown rice, but again, we can't absorb it through the prevalence of phytic acid and phytate. So if we don't have the brown rice, we don't have that phytic acid and phytate, but we have something like spinach and we have that iron coming into us, our absorption is going to be higher. So right there, I would argue that brown rice does have a downfall right there. It's simply, we say it's more nutritious because it has more minerals, but we can't absorb them because of the anti-nutrients within the brown rice. Both brown rice and white rice have arsenic. Arsenic has been shown to be a potential cause of diseases such as cancer, diabetes, even heart-related disease. Now, when you look at white rice and brown rice does have a lot more arsenic. With that being said, is this a massive concern? Should we avoid rices because of the prevalence of arsenic? I'm not even going to get into that. I don't think so at all. There's evidence that shows that the actual amounts in either brown rice or white rice are quite negligible to being leading causes for this stuff. But again, it does show that arsenic is related to these diseases, and arsenic is higher in brown rice than white rice. Furthermore, one of the biggest things, and this is something I stress huge time with my clients, and if you're a client of mine watching this, you know this, I preach digestion through and through and through. I'm a firm believer in the saying, it's not, I guess I shouldn't say I'm a firm believer in the saying. There is a saying, you are what you eat. And I don't believe that. I'm a firm believer in you are what you absorb and you are what you digest. We can eat and eat and eat. And if our absorbability and our digestion is not actually causing us to be able to process those nutrients properly, you aren't what you eat because you're just cycling it through, you're not getting any of the nutrients, not getting any of the benefits, and it's out the window. So digestion is huge. We need to be able to actually utilize and absorb our food properly. And quite frankly, I'm just going to 100% put it out there. White rice is a million times more easy on the digestive tract than brown rice is. When you get to things like the high fiber, the whole grain foods, they are harder on the body to digest. Gut inflammation is a very, very prominent issue and causes a lot of issues with the physique in terms of what we see. So if you address gut health first, and there's many ways to do this, simply adding in things like kimchi, sauerkraut, there's amazing ways to do it. But outside of that, a simple change that I've seen work with clients that have come to me, even lifestyle clients or competitors whose previous coaches had them eating tons of whole wheat products, tons of brown pastas, brown rices, you name it, and simply just making a switch to a really digestible, carb source like white rice over brown rice creates a vast difference in that bloat, those digestion with those clients. So this is a huge one. And again, in my opinion, I'm a firm believer in addressing digestion and making the digestive process as easy as possible. And when we look at brown rice versus white rice is much more beneficial on the digestion. So that would be another benefit and pro, I guess, to Team White Rice. When it comes to protein and digestibility, brown rice also has the ability to inhibit digestive enzymes like alpha amylase, lipase, protease. It's these digestive enzymes that help us break down our foods and utilize them properly. Now, when we look at brown rice, which contains these anti-nutrients, which I've read a few studies on NCBI that show there is an effect of protein digestion due to the anti-nutrients in brown rice. Again, if the nutrient absorption is being affected by a simple choice of choosing brown over white, I'm a firm believer that we should go with something that's not going to disrupt that digestion. Now, when it comes to digestion, there is other factors that come into play, and I'm not saying do not eat brown rice, do not eat quinoa, do not eat these whole grains, do not eat legumes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to actually think outside the box and look at the task and goal at hand. For instance, if we have a bodybuilder whose goal is to build the most amount of muscle possible and he's in his off season, chances are his food is going to be getting very high. When food gets very high, what do we need to address? Digestion. Because again, like I just said, if we're not digesting our food properly, we're not getting the most out of those nutrients, we're just spinning our tires. So if you are eating 7 meals a day, for instance, and each meal has maybe, let's say, 70 grams of carbs in it, you're looking at roughly 490 grams of carbs there. That's not even a crazy amount of carbs. Now, if we just hypothetically say that we're eating rice for every one of those meals, chances are you probably aren't, but hypothetically, let's say that 7 meals at 70 grams of carbs, and it's from rice, and we go for brown rice. And then we add our vegetables in on top of that, and then we add our proteins in on top of that. Some meals are steak, some meals are chicken, maybe we got a fish meal in there. Now, if you opt for brown rice over white, your fiber intake is going to be much higher. The higher our fiber intake, the fuller we're going to feel. You're going to get to a point when you have all those calories in and your foods are very high, where getting those foods in is very hard. Part of growing is being able to get food in. You need to be in a caloric surplus to grow. Now, if you can't finish your meals because you don't have an appetite and you can't actually fit all of your food in because you're just so full, that's going to be a massive hindrance to your growth. Now we swap out the brown rice for white rice. It's going to have you feeling less full. You're going to digest food better. You're going to get more out of the nutrients in the veggies and stuff you are eating. I'm not saying don't eat vegetables because they slow absorption. You still need them. Micronutrients are very important. But again, if we break this down, and that can go even further, like I have clients who actually I have drinking juice with meals 3 or 4 times a day because quite simply they can't fit enough white rices and easier digestible carb sources in that are still considered healthy, that they're at the point they need juices to just get an extra 20-25 grams of carbs in per meal. And that's fine because, hey, they need those calories. If we don't have those calories in for them, they're losing weight, and the goal here is to grow. But that's a side point as well. So basically what I'm getting at is if you're a bodybuilder and you're trying to grow, or even a female and you're trying to grow, and I've seen this time and time again with females, a lot of times they can't eat a lot of food. So they need to be able to get the most out of the food they are eating. And if eating whole grains, brown rices and stuff is going to minimize the amount of food we can actually put back in a quest when we are trying to grow, it's going to be a hindrance to the whole process. So sub that out for something that's actually easier digestible, that's not going to disrupt your digestion, that's not going to have you feeling fuller for longer, and you're great. Now, there is times where perhaps you're on a diet and you're starving and you want to feel fuller for longer. Well, you can have brown rice, of course. I'm not saying don't have brown rice. If it digests very well with you and you feel great and you feel like there is no bloat, have that brown rice. I would argue don't have it pre-workout or post-workout. Post-workout, we are trying to replenish our glycogen stores, as fast as possible. While we're training, we're burning through glycogen like no tomorrow. We're emptying that muscle glycogen. We want to refill that muscle glycogen quick. So having a slower digesting carb, a carb that's going to minimize the impact of the GI, again, not prevalent here, but we'll say it is for argument's sake, brown rice isn't the option. Go for white rice, easily digestible. It's going to refill that muscle glycogen much faster, at a faster rate than your brown rice. And quite frankly, if you're having rice post-workout, I don't also believe that I don't think you're going to want vegetables and whatnot in this meal. We don't want that fiber to slow down the absorption. We don't want fats to slow down absorption in this meal. We generally are going to want something that's easy to digest and going to refill the muscle glycogen, nitrogen, all these things faster than a slow digesting meal. Pre-workout, you could argue if you gave yourself enough time before the meal and the training session, that brown rice could be okay. Again, we want to fill that muscle glycogen and we want to use that energy immediately. We don't want to have to sit there and digest and have digestive issues going into a training session. White rice is very, very easy to digest. I would say pre and post workout 100% of the time, always, you're better off going with white rice over brown rice. And that's just, again, this is my opinion. You can take it for what it is. I think I'm educated on the matter, but you can decide that. And hey, again, this ultimately comes down to what you prefer and personal preference. If you know you feel shitty eating white rice, but you feel amazing eating brown rice and you like eating brown rice throughout the day, I'm not going to tell you to not eat brown rice. I'm just kind of breaking the myth on white rice is bad for you. Now, there is some varieties of white rices that we want to stay away from. So your quick rice, your sticky rice, stuff that's fortified with sugars added to it that makes it super sticky, and generally the stuff that you get when you go to a Chinese food restaurant that's super sticky and you can mold it with your hands into balls, it's so sticky. This stuff has sugar in it. That's what makes it sticky. If you're opting for a white rice, just stick to something simple like a Thai jasmine rice or your basmati rice. These are going to be very, very there's nothing really essentially added to them other than, like we mentioned before, some of the fortified nutrients like minerals, that kind of stuff, some vitamins. But yeah, that's basically it. It all comes down to understanding the differences and knowing what we're actually ingesting and why. The whole premise of brown rice is healthier, I don't necessarily believe in it. I don't think it's healthier at all. I don't think white rice or brown rice is necessarily bad for you. In my opinion, I think white rice is the better option because you're going to digest it better. You're going to get more minerals and nutrients out of the other foods you eat. And quite frankly, I like it a lot more. It tastes better. If you like white rice better, eat white rice. There's nothing wrong with eating white rice. It's not going to make you fat. Actually, it's funny that I mentioned the make you fat thing just because I was reading when I was doing some reading on this stuff. I was reading how Japan is actually in the top 10 consumers of all countries in the world of white rice. Makes sense. Obviously, it's a staple food in the culture. Now, when we look at obesity levels, Japan has like the lowest obesity levels in the world, and that's of the WHO stats. So they're the highest consumers, one of the highest consumers in the world of rice. I know China is actually way, way up there, even more so than Japan, but actually India is up there too. But when we look at Japan, they simply have some of the highest consumption measured in volumes and tons of white rice, and they also have the lowest obesity rate. So that's not to say white rice is a solution to obesity, but it just can go to say that carbs are not evil. Carbs do not make you fat. It's other lifestyle choices. It's overconsumption of calories. But yeah, that's a side point. I just thought it was super interesting when I was doing some external research on the topic before I did want to discuss it and discuss my thoughts on everything. That I just stumbled across this statistic talking about that, and yeah, it's pretty interesting that Japan has some of the highest white rice consumption rates in the world, yet they still have the lowest obesity rates. So that's it. That's all. That's my chat today on brown rice versus white rice. I hope you guys enjoyed. Coach B out.